A mixed race discussion by a super Negro. By the way, it's me. Hi. Why are we having this discussion? For starters, I made you guys had an option to vote back when. I do not remember when, but I think it was 2 weeks prior, and Nick Cannon won. That video came out. If you have not watched it, watch it. But the Nick Cannon option won. I also want to talk about this because if you did not see my YouTube show, I mentioned about a creator that I am into and I'm a huge fan of his work, and he ended up saying that Sneeko, the YouTuber, is black, and he's not. I realized, I was like, nah, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about this because it's at this point, this isn't the first time he has done that, but also the fact that he's not the only person who is black, fully black, with 2 black parents who think this way. And it's very annoying when we have these discussions when it comes to mixed race people mixed with black people or biracial people, however you prefer to call it, and people try to dismiss us black people with 2 black parents. It's very upsetting, and also it's a form of not trying to listen to people's point of view who are in a different environment than you and or experience different things than you.
And race is based in phenotype. It is based in phenotype because race isn't real. It's a fake science. It is something that was constructed specifically so that racism could exist. Look up the history of racism, especially in the United States. The history of these ideas of mongoloids and caucasoids. These were ideas that were supposed to be scientific, but what they were was just BS that people made up to say certain people that look a certain way are inherently inferior. So that construct is created by people who branded themselves the Caucasoids, later the whites, and said that those people who look white, who have the pale skin and certain features, are the best, nicest, smartest people. That is what.
Now, before we get into the mess, I know there are going to be someone who's going to be like, so I am not black because I have one grandparent who is not black. I'm going to say this right here, right now. If you have 3 grandparents who are black, you're black. I'm going to repeat this again. If you have 3 grandparents who are black, you're black. That will make you about, of course, depending on your ancestry, at least 70% or plus being black. So you're black. In this case, that means you have one biracial parent who is mixed with black and a black parent who is fully black. Here are celebrity examples: Normani, Tyga, Justine Skye, Sasha Obama, Beyonce, Neo, Rihanna, Chris Brown, Yaya DaCosta, and Omari Hardwick. Should biracial mixed with black people identify as black? Before I answer my question, I want to read an article quote from Catalog Insights. The quote states, "As the nation has become more diverse, increasing numbers of Americans are multiracial or belong to more than one racial group. In 1970, just 1 in 100 babies born was multiracial. These days, the share has climbed to 1 in 10. Interesting. Short answer. No, but I do get it. And what I mean is, in some cases, biracial people mixed with black people go through some discrimination similarly to full black people. Besides discrimination, they can relate to certain things that full black people face. But for the most part, when it comes to these type of discussions, it always ties to our race, which is a problem because you're both. And I'm talking about biracial people mixed with black people right now. You're both. You have two races, or maybe three depending on your background. And in this case, you're not biracial if you have more than two races, my opinion. Anyways, even though it's a fact. Anyways.
I went off on a tangent there, but I was just saying that the man in this next clip that I'm going to run for you reminded me of her, because he was sitting there telling the Aboriginals that you're doing to me what the colonizer did to us. Sir, you are the colonizer. Like, what?
The issue is lateral violence. We have learned some very, very bad habits from the colonizer. The weapons of the oppressor become the weapons of the oppressed.
You have now become the freaking colonizer. Your bloodline has gone to the point that they have bred the Aboriginal out of you, and now you're white. And you're going to turn around and tell these Aboriginal people that they're oppressing you? What? What kind of shit is that? Like, I'm so confused. And I'm also confused as to why y'all are hanging on to this little drop of Aboriginal blood that's in your veins. Like, what about...
Your experiences are not going to be the same as mine, because like the articles I've been reading, and it proves my point about this. These biracial people, they always talk about, I never was seen as black. I never was seen as a non-black Latino. I never was seen as a black Asian, or just Asian, or I never was seen as white and black, or black and indigenous. But for the most part, from the articles I've been reading, it's usually coming from someone who has a non-black Latino parent and they black but a different type of ethnicity of being black. Then there are biracial people who are black and Asian, and the more common one in the United States, black and white biracial people. I get it. We can relate to being discriminated, but that's not the default of being black. It's so many things, which includes colorism within the black community. And in this scenario, we're not seen the same. And of course, there are light-skinned black people, but they're not biracial. And then depending who we're talking about, the way they come out is also the way they affected too within the black community, or certain traits that they have. And I'm specifically talking about light-skinned black people in this portion, but my point still stands. Biracial people, however you come out, you're still a biracial person, because once you share your unique experiences with your family who is one race and or culture different than someone who's black with their own unique culture or cultures, it shows that we're not the same when it comes to relatability of cultures. And do not get me wrong, yes, biracials have the right to identify as black, but they also have the right to identify as their other race, which it also includes their ethnicities too. But these non-black parents love trying to make their kids identify as just one thing, which is usually their black heritage. Kellog's Insight states, previous research in America has focused almost exclusively on how white people regard biracial people and has shown that they tend to categorize those of mixed race as belonging to the racial category of their minority parent. This does not surprise me because, once again, besides the most recent research I have done for this video, but I've seen it firsthand growing up in the Bronx. I had friends who were mixed race depending of their backgrounds, but most of them, it was usually someone who is black, any type of black with a non-black Latino parent, and usually they would tell me that they just black, or they would front about being mixed race, another discussion for another day, or they would tell me that even though they're both things, they always tend, well, specifically their non-black parent or even their black parent would tell them, hey, you identify as just black, even though they know that they're biracial. And when I went to high school and college, similar things too I've heard from similar people that were considered biracial, mixed with black at school. And I didn't have an issue with certain people because they always acknowledged that they were black and something else, or they would just say they were black, but they never switched up. Whereas some biracial mixed with black people, they would switch up, and then of course we see in the media in general with biracial people who are famous, and they prove time and time that they're not the same as us for black people with two black parents. And do not get me wrong, I like these mixed with black artists. I like a good chunk of them, but I'm gonna always know that we're different, and that is okay, because I still like you. I still think you're an entertaining person. I still want to consume your material, but I'm not going to be pretending that you're representing just black people, because you're representing both sides of your culture. And then also we have to also remember that there are certain biracial people who switch up and go try to talk down on black people, but then praise their other half, or hardly talk anything negatively about their other half, but they always for some reason come for us black people. The research finds that overall both races view black, white, biracial people as slightly more black than white, says Cuddy. As I've mentioned previously, they sure do. And of course, I, to some degree, felt the same way too back then. Once you get older and you start to see things, and then you start to hear things, and then you start to see a similar pattern when it comes to biracial mixed with black people, you start to realize we're definitely not the same when it comes to our stories. And then when we're depicted in the media too. I do want to read from this article. It's called Not Enough or Double the Prejudice on Being Black and Asian American in 2020. The article states, a lot of people believe that when they have mixed race kids, the birth of their child is correcting so many racist things in this country, and that is just not true. Racism can still continue to exist, even in that own person's family. Definitely. While I was reading this article, I felt bad for the Asian and black mixed race people. it's crazy the amount of things that they go through with both sides of their families. And then, of course, outsiders too, telling them what they are and what they're not. But I'm thankful that they sharing their stories, because it's educating us to know better and to understand their point of views, while also getting a glimpse on how it is to be an Asian and Black person, especially on the Asian side. One of the sources that I've gotten was from a podcast. It's called Get Through S. I think I'm correct. Get Through S. This episode, I was like, yikes. Because besides the woman on this episode not knowing if she could just say she's a Black Dominican, she was interchangeably using Black and Dominican separately, flip-flopping. And I cannot stand when people do that, especially in interviews, because it's like, are you Black or are you not? Which one is it? So she was talking about how her family, her Dominican side, who is non-Black, or are them or non-Black, or most of them, because I'm not sure, because she doesn't really know what she is. She distinguishes the two, Black and Dominican.
And, after that, I think I was like really scarred. I was like, you know what? Me and Dominican men, we can't do this. And then I met George. When my mom found out, she cried. Literal tears coming down her face when she found out I was dating a Black man. My dad didn't speak to me for months. It was probably like a year, actually, that he went without speaking to me. I think we started talking in between, just because life happened and there were moments where we really needed to come together as a family. But as soon as like those moments ended, him and I went back to not speaking, because to him, George was just trying to lighten his race and was using me. Wow. Mind you, my dad's best friend is basically Haitian. The man is darker than George. But that's okay, because he's Dominican. He's not Black.
And then this comes with the follow-up. Why you as a Black person are going to be with someone who has racist people in their family who are close to them. So some of you, maybe a few of y'all gonna be like, love is love, or da. But at what cost it is to be in a relationship where immediate family members do not want you, or people that look like you to be in their families? What's the purpose? Why? Is it really worth it as a Black person to be in some type of relationship, and then you're gonna have mixed race kids within your future, and then you already know that the family has an issue with you because you're Black? Biracials and their self-hating Negro parent. Now, there are a good chunk of celebrities, influencers, politicians, whoever you want to call them, or however you want to call them, who are anti-Black, and then they interracially date and or get married, and then they have a mixed race child. 9 times out of 10, these mixed race children end up having a disconnect with the Black side of their family, or they spiral and say anti-Black things, or worse. Some celebrities include Candace Owens, Kanye West.
Briefly, speaking of Kanye, because I'm not going to do a whole thing on him in this tea roundup, it just tickles me that he's pulling the race card again, that old chestnut, like he and so many other f***wits do when they're in a pickle. Kanye, what you talking about Black kids? Black kids come from 2 black parents. Remember, and when you get on, he leave your ass for a white girl, you the he. So, you got the biracial children that you always wanted. Quit playing in our faces, it's boring. Then again, he'll probably calm his tits on this latest series of outbursts once his documentary comes out next month and the publicity cycle is over. Tired, late, we've seen this a
Herschel Walker, Sammy Sosa, other black male athletes and musicians. And for additional black women like Candace Owens being anti-black and famous, it's hard to find. Very hard. Hey, it's Editing Me. I do want to mention 2 things. The first thing is that most of the biracial people mixed with black people, for the most part, it's from a black father who is the black parent of these biracial mixed with black children. And I could guarantee this is true, like from my experience, which would be the second thing I want to mention, is in the Bronx and NYC in general, but mostly in the Bronx and in Manhattan, because these are the main areas I've like passed by frequently. I've seen most of the black parent being a black man. So do with that information with what you will. And then social media, I'm telling you, it's crazy. And it makes you think, but of course I'm not going to say my thoughts here because people get offended when we talk about these type of discussions when it comes to black men in these interracial relationships, and then they somehow pass on the self-hatred to their biracial children, and then the biracial children end up with white people or non-black people in the relationship. It's a mess. I'm telling you, it's a mess. One more thing, not all black men are like this who are interracially dating. That is not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that from my experience, this is common, and for what I've been seeing online. If you do not believe me, go look outside, especially from New York City. Concluding statements and the outro of this video. Besides social media and what I've been reading playing a factor on my perception of mixed race people, mixed with black people, these things that I've been mentioning also happens within my day-to-day life outside in the city of New York City, specifically in the Bronx, because I am from the Bronx, born and raised, and Manhattan because I've traveled within Manhattan and I went to high school in Manhattan. And of course, I see these interracial couples, their interracial children. Brooklyn, time to time. I'm not really in Brooklyn like that. I did went to college at Brooklyn, so I had a good chunk of time in there to see certain things within these interracial relationships and the children. I get these type of feelings when I see these interracial couples or their mixed race children, when I see them on the streets, when I see them in the media. Like half the things that I be seeing in the media happens in my day-to-day, like me seeing it or hearing it or both. And then some people try to pretend that these things are not real and try to make us full black people feel like we're crazy online or even in person, and then getting uncomfortable with conversations on inequalities within the media or certain parts of the media when it comes to proper black representation. And sure, it's not biracial mixed with black people's fault to some degree. It's definitely their family members. One more thing before we go straight to the outro. Can we as a community the black community. Stop trying to force people within the community to interracially date, especially if you know that black man or that black woman or that biracial man or that biracial woman are not comfortable interracially dating. Stop forcing us to interracially date if we're not comfortable.
For example, black people, because of marginalization, systemic racism, we have been economically low income for like low income and poor through the history of our existence in the United States. So because of that, like, our culture has been created in many parts of the country. Black culture has been created in many parts of the country where poverty is most prevalent. That does not mean blackness is synonymous with poverty, which a lot of people like say raised like poor, which is why I speak the way I speak, or I'm considered ghetto or whatever. And that's not also to say, I'm not also saying that, oh, because there are rich black people, that means poverty is synonymous with black people. No, I'm saying that black culture is something that when you talk about, you have to say and. Like, you have to have a caveat, you have to have a but, you have to have a further explanation. You can't just flat out say, I grew up in the hood, therefore blackness is something that comes easy to me. And then I've seen this discourse too, where some people have said, like, there are people when they have like a proximity to blackness, like they're non-black people and they have a proximity to blackness, they all do typical, all have a typical way of expressing blackness. It's not unique. So I'm a black New Yorker. The way I'm talking and expressing myself is so much different from a black person from Atlanta. Like, it's different. A black person from Chicago, a black person.
Thank you so much if you made it this far in this video. I appreciate you. Be sure to like this video. Please comment things that make sense, especially if you're black or mixed with black. I would like to know your opinions on this topic because you my peoples, and I would like to see some good conversations happening in the comments. Please try to not comment anything crazy or try to be anti-black because you're gonna get blocked. And also, I'm not trying to do this back and forth thing. No. And of course, hearing from other full black people is important too. The way some of y'all come for black women talking about these type of discussions is ridiculous. And of course, I've experienced it too with a few of the videos I've done on my channel. Seriously, mi gente, good conversations. Okay, mi gente, okay, mi gente, okay. Thank you, and